From the studios of KPBS TV in San Diego, California. We are reaching you live through a unique and complex international telecommunications network via satellite, microwave, and cable. The International Training Center at San Diego State University brings us all together in this video conference, which joins distinguished organizations located in Mexico, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, Panama, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, Bolivia, Paraguay, Argentina, and the United States of America. Welcome to our program on creative thinking and visioning, anticipating tomorrow's challenges and opportunities. This is the 11th video conference in the series Competitive Success with a Global Focus. My name is Richard Page, and I will be your moderator for today's program. I am a private attorney with the Page firm, a professional corporation that specializes in the areas of business and international litigation, including alternative dispute resolution, and is located in San Diego, California. Today's program is composed of 2 presentation modules and 2 question and answer sessions. We look forward to your live participation. Changes in communications and technology are advancing rapidly and will accelerate as we begin the new millennium in less than 2 years. A study of forecasts in the February 1997 issue of the Futurist suggests that with creative thinking, we can anticipate events up to 30 years with a fair degree of success. Thinking creatively about the future is our insurance to a better tomorrow. What are the principles of future thinking and the role that they play in human and organizational behavior? What are the intellectual tools and protocols that will allow individuals at different organizational levels to make decisions which are more aligned to their desired individual and collective futures? This exciting video conference will address these and other questions related to our ability to anticipate challenges and opportunities. The role of methodical thinking and new approaches, such as the use of intuition, will be discussed in an effort to motivate participants toward creative thinking and visioning their own competitive success. It is a pleasure to introduce to you today's expert speakers, Mr. Thomas Hoffmann and Dr. Roger Frantz. Mr. Thomas Hoffmann is Director of Human Resources in the worldwide engineering consulting firm Golder Associates Corporation, headquartered in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, with 75 offices in 130 different countries, and managing principal of Value E Squared, Inc., a management consulting firm. He works with Golder Associates worldwide and with Fortune 500 company leadership teams in understanding those organizational characteristics which will lead to higher levels of employee contribution, performance, and satisfaction. Since 1986, Mr. Hoffmann has worked with companies in North America, Latin America, Europe, Asia, and the South Pacific. Originally from Wisconsin, Mr. Hoffmann began his career at AT&T in 1970 and spent 26 years in line sales, operations, and corporate staff positions. From 1989 to 1991, Mr. Hoffmann was Administrative Director of Quality for AT&T's Western Region. He served as a certified senior evaluator for the Malcolm Baldrige Award criteria for the period 1990 to 1993. He has also been a guest professor at Estonia Business School in Tallinn, Estonia, since 1992. Dr. Roger Frantz joined the faculty of San Diego State University as professor of economics in 1978. He has held workshops on intuition for over 10 years. His interest in the field began when he started a daily meditation practice in 1970. He has worked as a consultant to a number of internationally recognized firms, including Pioneer Electronic Technologies, where he serves as an executive coach to upper management. He also works as a consultant for small businesses through the federally funded Small Business Development Center's San Diego branch. Dr. Frantz, who received his Ph.D. in economics from Washington State University, is co-editor of the book Intuition at Work, Pathways to Unlimited Possibilities, a collection of essays by a number of experts in the field of intuition. The author of the book X Efficiency, Theory, Evidence, and Applications, and co-editor of the Handbook of Behavioral Economics. He has also authored a number of articles dealing with topics from both the field of economics and that of intuition, which have appeared in various scholarly journals and books. Dr. Frantz has appeared as an expert in both his fields of interest on a number of radio and television programs. Welcome. Let us begin with an introductory question. What is the relationship between visioning and intuition? Mr. Hoffmann?
Thanks, Dick. Visioning is really the ability to see, and it's future-oriented. And because it's future-oriented, we don't know exactly how to get there at this point. But we position ourselves, we can see details, we can imagine, and we can articulate a picture or a vision of the future. However, getting there, I believe, is part of the role of intuition. So, Roger?
Thank you. I would say that intuition is a process of seeing the whole without necessarily having details of the parts, and then later filling in the parts by a more logical step-by-step approach.
Thank you for your comments. Let us begin with Module 1, in which Mr. Hoffmann will discuss the unleashing of vision, including the role of the mastery path, which leads to organizational competence, and the transition to create the organizational future through visioning and creativity.
During the past several years, we have addressed the importance of vision in driving success in business, or for that matter, in any endeavor you may embark upon. We have developed an understanding of the key mechanics which underlie creating a vision, the elements of delivering a vision to the organization, of linking the vision to facilitating the organization to learn, and exploring how we as humans create obstacles to our own success. This year, I would like to spend some time with you exploring how we might more fully capitalize on the human potential in our organizations to create our future, our vision. I would like to explore with you the following. Number 1, the role of mastery path, which leads to organizational competence. And number 2, exploring the transition, namely dialogue, to create the organization's future. In the second half of the video conference, Dr. Roger Frantz will explore the role of intuition in the creation of vision and business success. In the October 5th, 1998 edition of the respected business magazine Forbes, the editor surprised many business leaders and business schools alike by declaring on the front cover, "Everything you learned about business is wrong." The cover and feature article was an essay written by one of today's most respected business gurus, Peter Drucker. What was so surprising? Dr. Drucker asserts that 7 of the underlying assumptions that are leading management are out of date. Namely, there's only one right way to organize the business, that the principles of management apply only to a business organization, that there is a single right way to manage people, that technologies, markets, and end users are fixed and rarely overlap, that management's job is to run the business rather than concentrate on what is happening outside the business. That is, management is internally, not externally focused. That national boundaries define the ecology of enterprise and management. While I do not intend to embark on a discussion of the 7 assumptions during this video conference, I do believe several of them have significant relevance for us. By questioning some of our basic assumptions, we create the opportunity to intuit new insights and can take actions which make us more successful and perhaps more creative. Drucker states that the one business assumption most at odds with reality is, quote, single right way to manage people, unquote. He cites numerous other assumptions we make about managing people which affect how we view their role in business, to what we expect from them. An example he cites, which has implications for later in this discussion, is that of the knowledge worker. He defines a knowledge worker as, quote, one who knows more about his or her job than anybody else in the organization, unquote. Accepting that definition leaves us with some challenging questions. What does a knowledge worker then expect from his or her boss, from management, from the organization? How does a knowledge worker expect to be treated, to be paid, to participate in creating client solutions, to participate in new approaches for product development, to become a master of his or her specialty, or to participate in defining the company's future? A second assumption which Drucker highlights as being at odds with reality in today's organizations is that of, quote, management being internally, not externally focused, unquote. Your organization, whether private, public, or nonprofit, exists for some external purpose. The first challenge is to determine what results you want for your organization on the outside, not the inside. This may be one of the most difficult questions any business must address. Drucker goes on to say, and I quote, the center of a modern society, economy, and community is not technology, it is not information, it's not productivity. The center of modern society is the managed institution. The managed institution is society's way of getting things done these days, unquote. The institution exists to produce results and in society. In part, challenging our thinking around external focus is part of our question today. I introduced these concepts from Drucker's essay in part to create a context for our discussion, and in part because they are inextricably related to our subject. With the pace at which the world around us is moving, if we are to create businesses which will be successful in the future, we must challenge our most fundamental assumptions, lest we block ourselves from the very insights and information which will allow us to make the transition. One way we might begin exploring ways to gather insights about defining our future is to look at how we, the people around us, and the people working in our organizations develop new competency levels. By viewing how individuals develop along their personal mastery path, I believe we can gain insight into how an organization can develop along its mastery path. And the transition from the individual to the organization may provide key knowledge in how we can exploit the current resources we have to provide insight or vision to the future. For the past few decades, a gentleman by the name of George Leonard has been researching how people develop or become masters at some competency. To help us understand the concept, he developed a model he calls the mastery path. The model begins with two axes. Time is represented by the horizontal axis, and level of competency is represented on the vertical axis. The line moving up the chart, almost in a step pattern, represents the path that a person most likely takes to master a new level of competency. What Leonard noted in his research was that people at varying points in time appear to make sudden advances in their developing competency. Sort of a burst of a new capability, permitting them to arrive at a new level of competency. A friend of mine from Cube Learning International refers to these bursts as performance pops. A person accumulates some new knowledge, which based on their current data and other data which they have accumulated, allows them to suddenly leap forward in performance. Returning to the chart, people then appear to plateau for a period of time. The combination of the burst of capability and then the plateau forms the step pattern. What surprised Leonard was he found that the true learning does not take place during the performance pops, but rather during the plateau between performance pops. In other words, over time, while appearing to be on a performance plateau, one gathers new information, draws new relationships with previous knowledge, and intuits new insights. At some point in time, an individual may get a piece of data that acts as a catalyst to the learning and suddenly experiences a breakthrough or a burst to a new level of competence. To see what they mean by a performance pop, let's have some fun and try a brief experiment. It goes like this. Stretch your arms out in front of you. Now cross your wrists so that the palms of your hand towards each other, and then clasp your hands together. Good. Now, while your hands remain clasped together, bring them around in front of you and straighten your index fingers, still keeping your hands crossed. Okay. Now place the ends of your index finger on the sides of your nose and open your clasped hands and rotate open without removing your fingers from your nose. Watch. It looks like this. Let me repeat it one more time. Okay? So let's all try it. Stretch your arms out in front of you, wherever you are. Now cross your wrists. Place the palms of your hands toward each other. Then clasp your hands together. Good. Now bring your hands, while clasped together, around in front of your face. Straighten your index fingers, keeping your hands crossed. Now place the ends of your index finger on the side of your nose. Open your clasped hands and rotate your open hands outward without removing your fingers from your nose. Now, how did you do? Did all of you get it? Try it one more time. My suspicion is correct. Some of you may be having difficulty completing the experiment without removing your fingers from your nose. Now let me give you some more information. When you crossed your wrists, notice which wrist and hand is on top. When you clasp your hands, make sure that your small finger on the hand on top is also the top finger. It looks like this. Wrist on top, little finger on that hand on top when you clasp. Now retry the experiment. How many of you who did not get it before got it to work this time? Good. If you still didn't, have someone in the room who did show you. Well, that little experiment may seem a little foolish, and it probably looked that way on TV as well. It demonstrates a pop in performance. For those of you who missed it the first time, but were able to get it after receiving more information, experienced a pop in performance. You achieved a new level of competence. Returning to Leonard's chart, one could say that just by getting a little more information and acting upon it, we have mastered a new level of competency. Now let's say that instead of this funny little experiment, one of your employees had learned listening skills which allowed her to deliver exceptional service to customers, a new level of competency. While executing this new capability, she now better understands how her customers are conducting their business and how they view their future. Using the model, we could say the employee had a burst in performance by providing a new level of service or more appropriate solutions. As the individual performer, she recognizes that she has reached a new level of mastery or competence. If you were her manager, you might also think she has learned a new level of mastery, and for continued success, she only has to execute it consistently. Dr. Deming of quality fame referred to the same phenomena as transformation learning curve. He refers to the stages as first, the illusion of learning where people master the rhetoric and then graft it onto the old process. Second, people arrive at understanding that they didn't know as much as they thought. And that recognition allows them to begin to integrate the knowledge and know-how. Third is when the real learning begins. Dr. Deming referred to this phase as the transition from knowledge to know-how. The concept as expressed by both Leonard and Deming raises two challenges for us in business. One for the employee and one for the leader-manager. The question is, how is the employee or leader experiencing the new knowledge? Namely, from what point of view do they view the new knowledge? To explore this question, let's return to our earlier example. First, let's look at the employee that has learned a new competency. Is the employee coming from the point of view that she now knows how to perform at the new level? Or is she coming from the point of view that her learning has just begun? Second, as her leader, manager, are you viewing her performance from the point of view that she knows and should improve again very soon, or from the point of view that she needs more information to nurture new growth? Why are these challenges? Because at this juncture, just the point of view, the learner or leader manager determines the possibility of further learning. You may recall during the video conference that I participated in last year, Stuart Emery and I discussed the impact that our point of view has on our ability to gather and see information. Briefly, our point of view on a subject directly impacts what perceptual filters we will use to screen information available to our thinking process. If one chooses to come from the point of view that he now knows something, he unconsciously sets up perceptual filters which will not allow him to be aware of any other data, conflicting or new, which would enable him to enhance his knowledge or change his mind. And as you also may recall, we unconsciously put the filters in place that support our preferred view of reality. So for sustained learning, we must consciously check our point of view. Michael Vance talks about sustained learning and creating conditions for openness to creativity and tuition in terms of the competency matrix. We tend to move from the unconscious incompetence to the conscious incompetence, to the conscious competency, and finally to unconscious competency. We essentially move from I don't know, to I don't know, to now I know, and to a new level of mastery generally reflected by I don't know I know. Understanding this migration is important because of the inherent danger of stopping in I know. If we find we limit ourselves to the area of I know, we will limit our ability to learn anything new. However, we can open ourselves to learning new things if we are willing to dwell in the area of, I don't know. Being open to this arena, sometimes referred to as the unconscious, where creativity and intuition reside, creates space for new insights to emerge. Being open to the workings of the unconscious will allow new visions to emerge. Back to our example. For the employee to remain open to continuous learning, she must remain open to the possibility that there is more to be learned and assimilated. For the manager or leader viewing the person's performance, one must maintain dialogue with the individual by providing more information and experiences for her to continue to learn and prepare for the next increase in performance. I believe that organizations can only master new levels of competency in the same manner individuals do. In the team development work I do with organizations, I observe people achieving a performance pop and arriving at new levels of competency as a result of the effective use of new information. While functioning at that new level of competency, the group may not appear to the casual observer to be learning. However, just as in the example for the individual above, it is during the plateau period when the group is continuing to learn, deepen their understanding of and application of the principles, and learning is actually taking place. During this phase of learning, the members of the organization, through sharing insights and intuitions, discover broader applications and/or new applications for the same knowledge. This time of insight sharing and/or dialogue is the preparation for the next performance step. As you have learned in previous ITC video conferences, Peter Senge in the fifth discipline explores the underlying principles of this group process in his writings on becoming a learning organization. I will not discuss these again today, but suggest that those of you who have not read Senge's work do so. A group or organization has the same challenge that the individual has. Namely, if they believe they've now arrived at the right answer, they close themselves to the opportunity to see new data, which could either enhance their understanding or provide additional insights. I once worked for a gentleman who I came to regard as the best leader I had ever worked for. Whenever we would finish working or solving a problem and present the solution, he would ask, "Have you arrived at the right solution?" If we responded, "Yes," he would always respond, "What's the problem with the right answer?" It was his way of constantly reminding us that while we had arrived at the conclusion we were willing to implement, we needed to remain open to the possibility that new insights or data could improve our answer in the future. We were running a business. We had to make decisions and act. However, he was reminding us that we should remain in dialogue. I have introduced and used the term dialogue several times during this presentation, and have done so purposefully. First, from the point of view of an individual, dialogue permits the person to continue to uncover insights and learn. Dialogue becomes the vehicle through which input is received and output and ideas are expressed and tested. Second, from the point of view of the group or organization, dialogue is the vehicle for translating individual learning and insights into group learning and insights. In other words, personal mastery is achieved through dialogue, and organizational mastery is achieved through dialogue. Additionally, dialogue is the window through which individuals and organizations link intuitions and insights into visions and visions into reality. I like to view dialogue as the transition towards creating an organization's future. By this, I'm suggesting that through dialogue with itself, the organization will discover its clear purpose, core values, shared underlying assumptions, collective thinking patterns, and shared meaning. Through dialogue with its community or market, the organization will discover wholeness of perspective, which links the organization and market and ties both into an even larger systems. Recalling the assumptions of Drucker, a leader's and manager's job is to concentrate on what is happening outside the business. Simply, dialogue is a form of conversation. In their work titled Dialogue, Rediscovering the Transforming Power of Conversation, Linda Eleanor and Glenna Gerard recall for us the Greek roots of the word dialogue. They are dia, translated as through, and logos, translated as meaning. It is through meanings we share that forms the basis for understanding one another and for developing relationships with one another. Another form of conversation is a discussion. Generally, the types of conversations most frequently that are engaged in during normal business. Discussion, according to the Random House Unabridged Dictionary, comes from Latin roots meaning struck asunder or scattered. Discussion, therefore, is a way for us to break ideas, opinions, or perspectives apart to isolate single points. The distinction between dialogue and discussion is important for our discussion on vision because of the very different points or results which are reached. Eleanor and Gerard contrast dialogue and discussion by suggesting that they are opposite ends of the conversation spectrum. They describe the distinction in the following chart. Another helpful way to distinguish the two is dialogue is a divergent conversation, whereas discussion is a convergent conversation. Eleanor and Gerard write, and I quote, "Dialogue encourages an opening up about problems, issues, or topics. The intention behind a dialogic conversation is to look for the multiple best perspectives, opinions, and answers." They continue, "This is in contrast to discussion that is about narrowing down the conversation to one end result. It is trying to come to closure so that everyone knows what to do. Discussion converges on one point," unquote. So the intention behind discussion is to look for the one best perspective, opinion, or answer. In any given conversation, you might find yourself moving in and out of both dialogue and discussion. But I suspect that if you look at most of your conversations, you will find that the majority of your time is in discussion. Recall the last 5 meetings you called. Were you attempting to figure out a way to take an immediate action and fix a problem? Or were you holding a meeting to learn from everyone attending the nature of the problem, an open-ended discussion, searching for the underlying assumptions and beliefs behind the problem without the intention of arriving at a solution now? Or did you call a meeting to learn about a problem and take immediate action and resolve it, mixing the two together? The latter combination almost always ends up being primarily a discussion. Eleanor and Gerard would say that the two don't mix well. Quote, "Like oil and water, they foster different dynamics and lead to